All right, y'all, it is 9:05. Good morning again. Happy Tuesday. Happy grades posting eve. We have an entirely different agenda than what was covered yesterday. We're going to go ahead and get started with Amy Latermi from the registrar. Amy, I made you a co-host so you could share your screen, and you are up.
Awesome. Good morning. Thank you for letting me come and speak to all of you. I think this might be the biggest Zoom meeting I've ever attended or spoken to. So thank you all. So I'm here to talk to you about some enhancements that we've recently made in the student system. And one of those is we have now made it accessible for students to update their own expected graduation term. So to give a little history, when we went live in Campus Solutions in 2013, that field was really used to trigger the eligibility for students to apply for graduation. Over time, and then that has worked fine. Over time, though, we've learned that this field triggers other things in Campus Solutions, as I'm sure most of you know. It's a very integrated system. So one of the major challenges our current process presents is with financial aid packaging. So as you know, you may have a student that has enough hours to graduate but hasn't applied for graduation yet. So they are currently a summer grad, expected grad term, but they are planning on attending through next spring. At the end of summer, once we shift over to fall, that student will potentially lose their aid for next year that they were packaged with in March. And so for some students, particularly low-income students, they may lose the need-based aid, the limited funded need-based aid awards that they received by no fault of their own, right? They did their FAFSA on time, and but because of a systematic timing issue with expected graduation terms, they essentially get repackaged multiple times. We've been manually handling these, but we've recognized this is an issue. Okay, so the first step we took was to basically allow students to update that, and we went back and forth with some. We got a group of people across campus, some representatives from colleges, from GPS, ITS, to talk about what is and isn't possible. And ultimately, we decided to just leave it open for students who have more than 60 hours earned and are not UGST. And so any student can go in and update their expected graduation term. This excludes students who are currently on the graduation list, because you cannot change if this is your current, if you're in applied status. And it also excludes students who are mandated to graduate, right? They have a graduation term because they're on a plan. So I want to share with you how a student can do that. All right. Hopefully you can now see my screen. So I am on the registrar's website, and when you go to graduation, you'll notice down here right above FAQ at the bottom, it says update expected graduation term. That's a little misleading. You're not actually updating it here. A student will do it in Student Central, but this is how to update your expected graduation term. So essentially there's steps they take. It's very straightforward. It's basically on the academic summary page. If they are eligible, this pencil will appear. If they are not eligible, it will display the information, but they won't be able to update it. They won't know that that's an option. Once they click this pencil, this page will show up. This is all automatically populated, and then they can select. And this is based on the terms that we have built out in the system. We have a disclaimer here, so students have to check the box that they will not receive financial aid for any terms after their expected graduation term. This is really just to make sure they don't, as they're making these choices, they understand the implications. And then they hit submit, and then their term will be updated. This is currently only an option for undergraduate students. We are looking to potentially add it as an option for graduate students in the future. So that was the first thing that we did with this group. We have debated on creating layers of approvals in here, but we've decided against it for right now because we don't have any policy to back up why a student wouldn't be allowed to extend their graduation term unless they are mandated to graduate students. So we are currently going to use this and kind of monitor the behavior of students with it. And then if we identify patterns, we might look to address those patterns through policy.
Morning.
So the next, oops, can you guys see, what are you guys looking at? Can someone tell me? I can't tell anymore what I'm sharing.
I can still see the screen where it says expected graduation date.
Okay. Let me. Now can you see expected graduation term assignment logic?
Yes.
Okay. So this is going to be emailed to you later. It is not something that I think you will need to know all of it, but it allows you to understand the logic we are going to use for the next phase, which is to assign an expected graduation term to all incoming undergraduate students and current undergraduate students. And so we've outlined here the logic for each kind of population. And essentially, this is to do two things. One, get us away from the using the grad application logic, which causes the financial aid implications. So we will be applying a 4-year graduation for all FTIC and AA cohort students, or a 2-year for AA cohort students, to align with the metrics. And then for each other population, we're going to assign a spring graduation term. Again, that's tied to the financial aid. This is not, they're not bound to this. This is really just intended to, one, give the students a finish line, two, make sure we can get away from the financial aid issues with waiting until they're eligible to apply. And three, it will allow, I think, advisors to kind of know where a student is, or what, I guess, based on their admission, what the expectation of when they should graduate. Now, I will say, some of these were relying on MAP term. And we went back and forth on this because we recognize there are some instances, particularly with transfer students, where MAP term isn't a true reflection of their number of years in school or projected number of years in school. However, we could not come up with a better solution that would fit the large group of students. So I encourage you, I'm gonna use interior design as an example that came up as in our discussions, but I'm gonna encourage you, if you're in one of those programs, be prepared to work with the students and just explain it's how the system applies it. I encourage you to go in and update it as soon as you have an idea of when you're going to graduate. So I haven't left very much time for questions. I will be sending this, I have already sent this to Sam. Do you have questions for me? No questions? Okay. Well, I thank you all, and you can certainly email me later if you have questions. But I appreciate letting me come and chat with you today.
Thanks so much, Amy. All right, next we have Scott Thorpe to go over satisfactory academic progress.
Good morning, everyone. I feel like I was just here, I guess, because yesterday was so recent. Okay, can you all see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just to kind of give everybody a refresher, back in December at the CIA meeting we had for the fall, this was a topic on the agenda then as well. And that was to kind of kick off the big announcement that the satisfactory academic progress appeals that go through financial aid, that process had moved online. So we talked about it in December, and then we had a training session kind of later, a week or so later, or later that week or sometime, to kind of give an overview of what the online form looked like and how to access it, kind of how you would fill in that form and submit it so it goes back to financial aid for them to review. So after go live, we have had some forms go through the process after fall grades have posted, and I know I've worked with some of you about how to turn those in, and some of you have reached out for some guidance on filling it in. After that go live this spring, the committee that worked on the form has continued to meet to kind of work on kind of a phase 2 of this project, which involves some updates. So what I kind of want to cover today is just kind of what some of these updates are that impacted the academic advisor step, and what you're seeing on the form. So I've kind of broken down kind of what the recent changes are. And when I say spring, these were worked on earlier in the spring and actually tested and moved into production a couple of weeks ago. So these are changes that are all live now. So if you were to get a form routed to you today, you would see these recent changes already reflected on that form. So these are things that have already gone live and moved into production. So some of these are kind of minor changes or things that are pretty easy to cover. The first one is just the financial aid comments. We moved the placement of that on the form. Some of you who've done the form before remember that there was a space for financial aid to kind of leave comments on the form when they were working on it before they routed it to you. So if they had a specific question about transfer credit or something that they wanted you to look at when you were filling in the form, they could leave that comment for you and you would see it. Unfortunately, it was placed on the form kind of at the very bottom after you had filled in all of your information. So it was kind of the last thing you saw when you were filling in the advisor page. So it wasn't very user-friendly. So we have relocated that section. So the financial aid comments will now appear kind of further up on the form before that red line that indicates kind of where your part of the form starts and where you're supposed to fill in your information. So it's just more user-friendly, so you're reading the financial aid comments before you're actually filling in the student's information that you need to provide to financial aid on the form. And the other changes here that are listed below, these are all kind of in relation to the recalculation section of the form. So these are, this is the section of the form that is used for the students who are appealing based on hours. So this is not including the circumstance appeals that have the academic plan component. That part really hasn't changed. So these changes here are all just for the recalculation section that are for the appeal of hours. And the first one here is anticipated grad term. So prior to this change, the forms that went through back in December or earlier in the spring, if the form was just an appeal of hours and there was no academic plan required, there wasn't a space on the form for you to indicate the anticipated graduation term for the student. So that has changed now because financial aid does need this information, even if it's just a recalculation that's happening for the student. They still want to know when that student is planning to graduate. So that is a change. So if you get a form and it is an appeal of hours and you have that recalc section, you will now see an anticipated grad term and need to provide that in order to submit the form back to financial aid. The other change on this section is we've added a space for advisor to include comments on a recalculation as well. Before you had a comment section only on the circumstance appeals, but not on the recalculation hours appeals. So this is just an addition to the recalc section where now if you have comments you want to leave for financial aid about how you recalculated the hours for the student, you can include that in the advisor comments and it'll go to financial aid and they can see it. And the last change here, this is kind of the most significant one and where the form will actually look different when you go in to see it, is we've actually kind of revamped the information and the boxes that we're asking you to fill in when you're recalculating the hours for the student. And that's kind of what the rest of my slides are kind of focused on. So for those of you who've done these before, you'll probably remember a page of the form that looks like this. This is what the recalculation form used to look like. So there would just be an area titled recalculation. And then there was like a couple of sentences there, just kind of with text instructions. Please review the student's academic record and submit the information below. Do not include current enrollment. For post-baccalaureate graduate students, provide only hours earned for the current active degree. And then you had these 4 different blocks of questions, 2 of which were related to test and transfer hours and indicating how many were applicable and how many were not. And then there were 2 other questions about total hours earned that kind of sounded very similar and kind of sounded like they were really the same thing. So this was, I think, a section of the form that kind of caused the most amount of challenges for people. And it was kind of where I know I got the most questions from some of you in working on these. So we wanted to kind of revamp that as part of this phase 2 and kind of make some changes here to make it clearer for y'all what is actually being asked and what you actually have to provide. And part of the challenge with this old version of the format is that there's not really a distinction between an appeal for a student who just at the undergraduate level has a ton of transfer credit and really just needs the test and transfer hours to determine how many are counting and how many are not, and who's actually finished 1 degree and is now working on a second bachelor's degree. And then financial aid really just needs to know how many hours they've earned towards that second degree. So we've kind of revamped the form with those 2 populations in mind so that you're only turning in the information that is actually needed for that specific student's appeal. So this is kind of what the revision is going to look like when you go in now. So you still have the same kind of instruction information there. It still says recalc. You've got the same generic instructions kind of listed there. But instead of getting hit with all 4 of those boxes, there is now going to be just kind of 1 question that's going to populate on the form first. And it's going to ask, has the student previously earned a degree in this career at FSU? And the choices are yes or no. So this is asking if you've got an appeal coming in and it's an undergraduate student, so they're in an undergraduate career, has that student already earned a bachelor's degree at FSU? Yes or no. So you'll check yes or no depending upon what that student has done. And all of that information is already on the form. So at the top of the form, there's a program plan section that indicates all of the programs and the plans the student has been in at FSU. So it'll tell you if they've completed a bachelor's degree already at the university. So you don't even have to leave the form and go to the transcript to look this up. It's all the information is in the top of the form. And then depending on how you answer this question for an undergraduate student, that's going to indicate then which questions and which fields are going to populate on the form. So if the answer is no, the student hasn't already earned a degree from FSU in the same career, then you're going to get the 2 blocks of questions that are asking just about the test credit and the transfer credit and how many of those hours are applicable and how many are not. And you won't have to worry about anything else. You're just going to see these 2 questions, nothing about total hours earned or anything like that. It's just going to be focused on the test and the transfer credit. If the answer is yes, you don't get the transfer and the test hours questions. Instead, you're going to get these 2 other questions that have been kind of reworded. So one's going to ask for total hours required for the degree. So how many hours are required for the program the student is in? Is it a 36-hour program, a 42-hour program? And then also cumulative hours earned. So how many hours has the student already earned towards that degree program that they're in? So the answer for these undergraduate appeals is going to depend on how you're answering that question. And then you're going to get one of these 2 sets of questions depending upon how that's answered and what the student has done. And the next slides here, these are just kind of illustrations of kind of how that looks on the form itself. So this is an example where we've answered no, the student hasn't already earned a degree in this career. And then you see only the test and transfer hours applicable questions are populating on the form. And if we answer yes, then we don't have the test and transfer credit questions. The screenshot, you've only got the total hours earned for the degree. So the student's in a 36-hour program and they've taken 12 hours of that 36. Now for the non-undergraduate students, your graduate law medicine students, high transfer hours usually is an issue for those populations. So the answers for them, or the information you're going to provide in the form, is really all going to be about the total hours required for the degree and the total cumulative hours. So the question, I think, is still there, but regardless of how you answer it, you're going to get these questions about total hours required for that degree. How many hours do they need in their program, and how many have they earned for that program? I always like to end with more training. I know this was kind of a big transition moving this form online. We are going to have a general session that kind of walks through the entire form next week. So that's going to be on Tuesday, May 4th. I've got the Zoom link here. And I'll definitely talk with Sam about sending a reminder out to CAA sometime early next week. But that will be Tuesday morning on May 4th at 10:30. So definitely, if you did not attend the one session we did last fall, I would encourage you to come to this one, or if you need kind of a refresher on this process. I will say the bulk of the SAP appeals based on the financial aid calendar are going to start coming in after spring grades have posted, because that's when financial aid is running their processing, checking the grades for the students and seeing who is no longer meeting satisfactory academic progress. And they're going to start contacting those students about initiating their appeal. And this is when you're going to start seeing a lot of these appeals coming in, is probably kind of starting in May and into June. So if you have not gone through the training already, I would recommend make sure you're available to go to that session. We will record it if you can't. I've also been kind of thinking through some options for some lab sessions maybe, or some kind of help support sessions we can do over the summer. So if you're getting to a point where you're getting an actual form for a specific student and you need help completing that form, there'll be a way you can kind of come to a lab or make an appointment to kind of get some additional support to kind of walk you through it step by step if needed. In the meantime, if you do have a form and you need any help with it, you could certainly reach out to me or John Carter. We were both on the committee that was kind of working on this form and kind of providing the advising representation for it. So if you have questions in the meantime about a specific form for an individual, definitely reach out to us, and we're happy to kind of work with you on it. There is a training guide available. It's in the CIA Canvas site, and we did update it a couple of weeks ago just to reflect these recent changes to the recalculation section. So definitely check that out as well. If you printed out the old one, I would definitely recommend to print out the new one. It is a little bit longer, just because it takes a little more space to cover the recalculation and the way that the page was redone. But that can be a really helpful resource as well, is to go ahead and just kind of look at what information is in that training packet as well. And that's all I have in terms of the updates to the process and the training that's coming up. Are there any questions?
All right. Thanks so much, Scott. I appreciate
Nothing
it.
at all. Nothing in the chat even. Okay.
Nope.
If y'all have any questions later on, just let us know. Just email me.
Brian said this is an improvement from the old system, Scott.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Probably all
Glad to
agree
hear
on
it.
that. All right. So next I have Dana with admissions.
All righty, that's my cue. Good morning, everybody. I will go ahead and share my screen with you. So I just have a couple of updates. Like Scott mentioned, my name is Dana. I'm a program manager in the Office of Admissions. And specifically, I oversee our merit-based funding opportunities. And so today, I just wanted to chat with you about some very quick updates from our office, as well as give some insight into our new and also our currently enrolled students who are receiving some of our merit-based awards. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
I will take the silence. Okay, great. So first, as a reminder, as we're transitioning into our orientation for FTC students, we want to be sure that we're reminding them to get their final transcripts in as soon as they can. For our students who are dual enrolled, that's going to be from both their high school and their college that they are dual enrolled at. And we also want to make sure we're giving a reminder that if we have any students that mention or maybe provide you with some insight about a grade below a C on their transcripts, possibly in that final year, make sure we go ahead and refer them back to the admissions office so we can properly counsel them, make sure that their admission is still intact. And so with those reminders being given, let's go ahead and transition into the merit-based award updates and some info that I think may be helpful as we begin to kind of counsel our students. We're really glad to admit a group of really talented academic students this year. And within that group, we were able to award students who showed some really strong promise and additional opportunity to receive merit-based funding from the admissions office. And so we do have a couple of awards. We won't go into all of the details with those, but we do have our University Freshman and Partner Promise Scholarships. Those are awards for students who are residents of the state of Florida. We have our out-of-state waivers that can reduce the cost of in-state and out-of-state tuition. And we do also have our more comprehensive scholarships, which are very substantial funding opportunities of our Presidential Award and the Benedicto Scholarship. And so, like all financial opportunities, there are some strings attached, meaning that there's criteria that we want to see from the students to make sure they're maintaining the academic excellence that they were brought in with. And I do think it's helpful to note that the responsibility of knowing and keeping up with these requirements does lie solely with the students, but we want to empower them to be capable young adults that we know they can be. However, awareness of kind of what those responsibilities are from our other campus partners can be helpful in guiding them into the process of developing that responsibility. And so that's why we kind of want to go over some of those criteria. What we're looking for is about 30 credit hours each academic year. This is preferred in the format of 15 credit hours per term, in keeping with that logic that surrounds the success of students taking 15 credit hours per term. But there are, of course, some exceptions to that, which we will chat about in a bit. We're also looking for these students to maintain a 3.0 FSU GPA or higher. And we're specifically looking at the FSU coursework because we want to see the success in the classes that they're taking on our campus, because that's where their funding is applicable. And lastly, we do want to see consistent completion of enrollment. So we don't want to see a lot of drops from coursework after the drop add period. We want to see that they're continuing with that mobility and they're moving forward successfully. Now, we are cognizant of the fact that that's not a one-size-fit-all model. And so we can absolutely give some grace for that, depending on the circumstance. There are programs that do not necessarily allow students to follow that structure. And so if the student is in a program that has mapping or outlined degree plans that do not recommend a 15 credit hour term, we can grant the student some wiggle room that way. We will, of course, also work with students who have accommodations that kind of recommend that they don't take a 15 credit hour term, or those that notify us about maybe a one-off or ongoing personal and medical circumstance, as long as documentation can be provided from, a proper office. And we also want to see if a student maybe has had any tailoring or has deviated in their degree plan for some reason. We will absolutely go ahead and consider making some modifications for those students as well. And so let's say we have a student who is pursuing a combined pathway where the graduate level coursework is not going to allow some of that 15 credit hour per term. We also may consider for students who are completing a double major and have two very rigorous courses in their program. We will kind of look at that and review that and take that into consideration to work with students where we can. Under most circumstances, we would like to see students essentially make up those hours where need to be, but you can refer them to us and we'll provide some of that guidance based on what the individual student needs. Right now, they are emailing the admissions office, but we will make this a form that students can fill out and upload in the coming weeks, and that should be live in the near future. We also kind of want to go over where we're checking for this information. We kind of don't want to reinvent the wheel here, and we want to make it easy for the students to utilize resources that we have. And so one place that we are looking, in addition to the academic program guide and their individual mapping, is Campus Connect. Coming from the advising background, it's really kind of a great place for us to check and see what specifically the students have been instructed to do as it pertains to their programs. And it's also a great place to kind of remind students to go and check themselves what they have been instructed to do. We do realize that not all offices are utilizing that tool. And so that may require a little bit more of an exchange with students as far as making sure they have a digital copy of whatever advising form that they're given that they can then upload and send to us. But if we can utilize Campus Connect wherever possible, that is helpful for us and for the students as well. And that is really all I have for you guys today. Do we have any questions about the information? I'll go ahead and stop share right now. Okie doke. Well, that is all I have for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate it. All right. Next, we have Nikki and Sarah to talk about ALEKS and some of our gen ed requirements and required courses.
Sarah, you're muted. There you
Thank
go.
you. Muted and my screen was hidden. I couldn't get to it. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Hammond, Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies, and I'm here with...
Hi, everyone. I'm Nikki Raimondi, another Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies.
Can you all see the screen, the ALEKS Math Placement Test slide?
I
Yes.
can see it. Yes.
Yes? Oh, wonderful. All right, we're off to a good start. We're going to start off with ALEKS Math Placement Test today. And I think a lot of you probably already know that Nikki and I collaborate very closely with Alec Kercheval, in the undergraduate coordinator in the mathematics department, along with the advisors in mathematics, in administering the math placement test. And so we're going to do a quick primer today. I know as we're gearing up for orientation, there are always a lot of questions because we have a lot of students taking ALEKS during the summer. So we are going to revisit this pretty quickly in terms of what advisors need to know. The most important thing to know is to understand who needs to take the test. And it is essentially first time in college students who are taking their first math course at FSU that is in what we refer to as the calculus sequence. So the course sequences that begin with Mac 1105 and then build up to either Calculus 1 or Mac 1105 building up to business calculus, the Mac 2233. So there's a really good graphic from the math department website that I've put in there so that you can kind of see that. So it's students taking any one of these courses that are in that graphic. Now, I will tell you that, and this has changed a little bit over the years, but ALEKS does not place students beyond Calculus 1. So if you have a student coming in who's going to start in Calculus 2 or Calculus 3, they do not need to be taking the ALEKS Math Placement Test because it can't place them beyond that anyway. So keep that in mind. Now, the next piece of this is something that has changed in recent years, but it was this way last year. So we broke this news last year. But for those students who are bringing in dual enrollment or transfer credit, if they're a lower division transfer student, if they're bringing in credit for a math course for one of these courses with a C- or better, they do not have to take ALEKS Math Placement Test. Nothing is going to change. They're going to go into that next course in the sequence anyway, and they've met the C- or better for it to count towards their computational requirements by state law, so they're good to go. Now, a few notes on this. There are some majors that don't require Mac 1105. And so this is what makes the ALEKS test requirement most confusing to our new students who are struggling anyway with choice of major, and maybe it changes from one week to the next. For those students who are not going to take Mac 1105, maybe they're going to take MGF 1106 or 1107, ALEKS is not required. Same thing if they've met all of their math requirements and they're not going to be taking another math course at FSU in this sequence, they would not need to take ALEKS. It is not we are not one of those universities that is just blanket. Every new freshman is going to take the ALEKS Math Placement Test. It would be easy to administer for Nikki and I if it was that way, but that's not the way we have it set up at FSU because we don't want students to take it if they really don't need it. Now, Same as in the past. If students are bringing in AP, IB, ACE, I actually have ACE spelled wrong. That was just a slip. It's AICE, but my connection to ACE, I spelled it wrong there. CLEP, if they've already earned credit, we do want them to take the ALEKS math placement test, because essentially we want to validate that they are in the correct course. There are sometimes gaps in time when students have earned that credit, or maybe they haven't even taken a math class their senior year. So we do want them to take it in that particular case. And then that test credit, along with ALEKS, are parts of the conversation. And ALEKS is not the only thing that we base, math placement on. The rigor of the courses, when they've taken the courses in the past, the grades they've earned in their high school, math courses, along with ALEKS and their comfort level, are all going to be factors in the conversation about placement for math. Now, we always put this advising chart out there in the orientation handbook. Those materials will be updated and given to you prior to orientation this year. But there are no real big changes in terms of how we are advising students this year, which is good news. So just to kind of highlight what's on this chart, some of these categories are real easy to handle. Some of them are a little bit more complex. That top box, that top row, the FTIC student with no college math credit and no attempts at math in the college course. Those are pretty easy. Those students are going to take the ALEKS math placement test if they are planning to take one of the courses that are covered by the requirement. But it is those students who need to take math at FSU and they're bringing in that AP, that IB, ACE kinds of credit from the past. That's when the conversation is going to be very critical. And you'll look at their score and, maybe their ALEKS score is lower than what is required for the next course in the sequence. And that's where you get into that conversation of whether the student chooses to deny the test credit, or whether they actually try to build up their skills, refresh using the learning modules that are available in ALEKS. And that's the real benefit of this course, is for them to use those learning modules. And they can retake the test if needed, if they want to try to get to a higher level, or at the very least they can prepare to be ready for whatever course they have placed into. And especially for those of you working with students in STEM fields, we know that the AP Calculus test scores, at FSU, the students who've earned 3s and are going into a STEM major, we have, largely encouraged them to deny the credit and to take Calculus 1, because we know the math department has, shown over the years with their data that students earning a 3 are less prepared and less likely to be as successful as those who have earned a score of 4 or 5 if they go into the next course in the sequence. And so if they do earn a 4 or a 5 on the calculus test, then they are well prepared to go into the next course in the sequence. And Nikki and I've seen the data on that recently, and they do well. And so that is definitely a good choice for them if they're comfortable for that. All right, so again, it's pretty easy if a student is bringing in prior college credit. As long as they have a C- or better, they're going to go into that next course in the sequence, and they do not need to take ALEKS, again, because they've earned college credit with a grade already. Now, if a student, and I don't think this is going to happen often, basically just because of our admissions requirements, but if you do run across an FTIC, student who took a college math course and got a grade below a C-, that student, of course, needs to retake the prerequisite math course and get a C- or better to progress. Now, whether or not they're going to be retaking, college algebra or whatever that is in the calculus sequence, depending on their major, they may not have to retake that course. They could take an alternative like an MGF course if the MAC course wasn't required for their major. But just to be clear, ALEKS cannot be used to test out of a prerequisite course in which an unsatisfactory grade has been posted on the transcript. They cannot skip over it. They will have to retake that test. All right, so the big question, how do students access ALEKS? Well, we did a lot of work last year to make it a lot easier. So all they need is the link. This is the link right here. It's big and long and ugly. And so a lot of times we hide it in a, in text, in a sort of hyperlink. And that's the way students will see it on the website or the emails that go out, etc. Now, all they have to do is log in using their FSU ID and password. So they don't have to go directly to the ALEKS website and search around with codes and everything. The code is built right into the link. So they just need their FSU ID and password. We create a new cohort for students every year. We just created that, but I've seen about 25 students have already taken, and those might be existing students who are taking it in order to register for classes in the in spring, for summer, or fall. So they'll be directed to the proper cohort. They don't need that code because, again, it's built into the link. And they'll use that same link anytime they log in the future to either finish the test, to access the learning modules, or to retest. Now, a big question that I get is, what do we do about those delayed test takers? The ones who didn't end up taking the test over the summer like we asked them, but they're trying to register in November for spring classes. They can use whatever cohort is active. There is no worries about cohort code or proper thing. Whatever is active at the time, a student can take the test, whoever needs it. So, that question comes up periodically. Now, there are a few other links that some of our care and student athletes, some are bridge students, will use while they are here. There is one set up for those students who are going to use it for remediation and take the test in person this summer. And there is one that is set up for screen reader. So if you do have a student who tells you they have a visual disability, we have a cohort set up that has removed some of the graphing stuff that would be difficult for a student using a screen reader. So please refer them to ace@fsu.edu if that is a student who needs that version of the test, because I can give that link to them. Now, there is a cost for ALEKS. It is $25 period for access for a year. That includes the initial test, the learning module, and they can retest up to, I think, 4 times. And we never have students retesting that many times, but a number of them do retest, trying to improve their scores. And we encourage that. We think that is a great thing to be doing. Nikki and I do a lot to try to make students aware of ALEKS. We want them to take it prior to their orientation session so that when they come in for their academic advising at orientation, you have that information and can factor it into your discussion with the student. So we will soon, in early May, start sending out an email that goes through the admissions office and explains the requirement to students in detail and gives them the direct link to take the test. There is a math department website, and by the way, this is a new one. Many of you may have bookmarked the old page that Dr. Bellano had put together. It says Bellano in the actual link. So if you have that one bookmarked, please get this new one bookmarked, because there are some, differences definitely. And I most recently saw that one still coming up in the search for FSU. So we're going to have to see if we can get that one sunset. It is also built into the Start at State, which is the pre-orientation online module that students are completing. It's included in the It's All Academic book. And I will create those ALEKS flyers that have been helpful to have in advising offices. And I'll send those out via the CIA listserv so that you have the link and the information for that as well. I did want to point out that the math department has nuanced some of the language in the placement chart over the past year. And that is because we were getting some questions and things were very confusing. People were reading the chart in different ways. And so the top row is exactly the same. It's pretty clear, you know, if you get the ALEX score of 76 to 100 and a trig sub score 56% or higher, you're eligible straight out for calculus. But it was this 76 to 100, you know, ALEX overall score with the trig sub score in the 41 to 55% range that we clarified. So the clarification is that, you know, if a student scores in that range, math department is recommending that they take trig before Calc 1 or take them together. If students opt to proceed, students do have the option to go ahead and take Calc 1 without trig, but math is advising that if they do that, they really should use those ALEX learning modules to review. And we hear that sometimes if the trig skills are not as well developed, it impacts Calc 1 and it impacts Calc 2. So that's why they're putting this recommendation in there. But I think it's explained in a better way now that everyone can understand that. There is, you know, if the students, if the composite score qualifies for trig or for Calc 1, but not the trig sub score, they must take trig before they take Calculus 1, unless they petition the math department to take it concurrently. So they would have to talk with the math department about that. Nikki and I cannot give that approval. And then there are the next two rows, you know, nothing has changed about those in terms of what the students are eligible for. But the red box I've highlighted because there is sometimes confusion. We sometimes get students who call and ask us at ACE if they have to keep taking, you know, if they just want to start at college algebra, do I have to keep retaking the test to get to a 46? Well, my answer to those students is, well, you really ought to, because the more you review and get ready for that course, the better you are likely to perform in that class. But the bottom line is, if a student is struggling and does not earn that 46%, they still can they can still start in college algebra, you know, as long as they are not a remedial student. But there is nothing lower than college algebra. If they graduated from high school prepared and they are non-remediated, they will start there. But do encourage them to take advantage of those learning modules, because again, brushing up prior to the start of the semester can really make a big impact in terms of how they perform in that particular course. So urge them to do that. And we have historically done some outreach to these students too and told them the same thing, so that they're getting that message from us to please get ready for this course. All right, so where can advisors check scores? Just a reminder, it's in the orientation dashboard. If you go there, we have that program to pull in, you know, because there are multiple attempts. We will pull in their highest overall ALEX score with the associated trig score for that test and the date of that test. So, and the math department recognizes these scores for a year, but again, most of these students are going to be taking it hopefully prior to orientation, so they will be recent test dates. You can also look up scores in Student Central. I go to the admissions and then test results to look that up, but it's also in Campus Connect. If you go to the course info tab and then scroll down towards the bottom of the page under term details and then high school pre-college, it's right there along with all of their other test scores for SAT and ACT. If an ALEX test score is not there, there are a couple scenarios that could be likely. First of all, it's possible the student didn't take it prior to orientation, which of course you can ask them about. But if a student says, no, I took the test, I took it, it could be a data sharing issue. So if the student took it, and I've had this happen before in conversations, on the ride up to Tallahassee, or you know, since we're in remote this year, if it's within 24 hours, the data does not populate into, you know, from the system or from Alex, from Alex to Student Central until 5 a.m. And then it also has to then populate from Student Central into Campus Connect. So it just literally could be a delay of when the student took the test. But if none of those apply, you can certainly email me at ace@fsu.edu. Every once in a while, there's some kind of glitch that happens for whatever reason. And my office can manually enter an Alex test score into Student Central as needed, or at the very least, let you know what the student scored. And the students often know what they have scored. They might print and bring along, a handout. And if a student ever asks you if they can share a score from a prior institution, they can, as long as they go into the Alex account that they already have and request that that be sent to Florida State. They can have a score. For example, I know University of Florida, Florida International, Florida Atlantic, they all require Alex test scores. We have had students share test scores from previous places. However, the math department wants that test score to be recent, like within a year. And so that may or may not fit that requirement. And if you have any questions, there are resource people to help you. The math department can answer questions about this, but quite frankly, they get so overwhelmed with so many. The advisors are handling so many math and Alex questions that ACE is a really good place to go, especially for students who have questions about whether they need to take the test or not, or majors, depending on their majors, do I need to take the test? A lot of those students actually come to ACE and get those questions answered. So you can always refer questions to us. But really, the best answer is for all of us to be answering questions. The more that you all inform yourself and know and understand these policies, the more questions you can answer. Because we really don't want to be sending students around to a lot of different people to get answers to these questions. So the degree that you can answer them, please take ownership, answer these questions. And if there's anything I can do to help you understand the policy better, please feel free to email me directly, or you can always reach me at the ACE email as well. So thank you for all that you do to help students understand this policy. And I look forward to working with you again this summer. Thanks.
We are going to also talk quickly about remediation, but before we do, does anybody have any questions for Sarah or I about Alex? Okay, Sarah, you did awesome. There's no questions. Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we can see
Yes.
it.
Okay. Okay. So I'm quickly, because I know Kathy Badger's coming up next, and I don't want to take too much of her time, but I'm just going to quickly go over some remediation basics and go through some of the policies and procedures that we use with students who come in with test scores on SAT or ACT that place them into our remediation group. This is college prep work that we ask students to do in math and English to prepare for our college level courses. So just quickly, and we don't expect you to remember all these, but those are the score ranges. Of course, it makes it really complicated because we have old SAT and new SAT. This is in the bulletin. It's out there a lot of different places, but of course we'll get this PowerPoint out to you as well through CIA, through SAM. So don't feel like you have to write all this down. But those are the score ranges. Students that fall within those ranges will be asked to take either a remediation test or college prep coursework, depending on the situation. Almost all of our students that fall within these categories that need college prep work are in our special programs like care, athletics, some of our fine arts programs like music and dance. So, we want to share this information with you guys in advising, but also know that you do not have to be experts in this area, because really it is those special programs, care, athletics, and our fine arts programs and majors that will work with students more directly on what their next steps are if they are in one of these categories where their test scores have placed them into remediation. So we want you to know the basic information in case students ask you questions, but we don't want you to feel like you have to be experts on the area, because we do have special programs who are working closely with these students to make sure that they are taking the right tests if they need to take a test, or taking the courses that they need. Okay. So testing, my office coordinates testing. I work with the special programs, whether it's care or athletics or our fine arts program, to manage the testing process. There is testing for each of the categories where a student could possibly test out of remediation. So you'll see in the second bullet, we have a Nelson-Denny test for reading. We have the EDEPT, which is run by our English department for English, and we use ALEKS for math. So the the EDEPT and the Nelson-Denny are, done here on campus, either in person or through Canvas, but the ALEKS is done just the way that Sarah has described it to you for most of our students. They will click on the link. Often they'll do this during summer bridge. So if they are a care student or in athletics, there are summer bridge programs that happen the week before summer C. And so those students are those students are told through their summer bridge coordinators and advisors what they need to do with ALEKS or EDEPT or Nelson-Denny as well. But ALEKS is the only one that might get a little confusing because there's a lot of ALEKS information out there. We do pull out our students on the remediation list from the normal messaging that is sent out through ALEKS so that it's not confusing to them, because many of these students will take the ALEKS math placement test during their summer bridge program the week before summer C to determine if they can place out of math remediation. And that red box that Sarah showed you earlier, that's what we're looking for. A score of 46% or higher will place them out of remediation. 45% or below tells us that they still need some college prep work along with the SAT, ACT scores that they posted in math. And as a reminder, and I get this question a lot from students and advisors and family members, students who have college level credit for English or math are automatically placed out of the remediation group. So if they have dual enrollment credit for ENC 1101, but for some reason their SAT, ACT test scores place them into remediation, they are not technically in the remediation group anymore. They can go on to ENC 2135, or if they have college credit, test credit, or dual enrollment credit for an MGF course or a MAC course, once again, that places them automatically out of remediation if they've got that that credit already. They don't have to take the testing, they don't have to do the testing, and they don't have to possibly take one of our college prep courses. So last year we handled everything remotely, which was a bit of a challenge for testing. This year, mostly it's going to be handled in person through Summer Bridge. We're happy about that. So again, those special programs will be communicating with those students to let them know what their obligations are and what their schedules are in terms of either testing to try to get out of the remediation group, or possibly what courses they'd be placed in. So as we talk about placement for English, if a student does not test out on the EDEPT, they would take ENC 1905 along with ENC 1101. And depending on what program they are in, if they're in care or athletics or music or another fine arts program, some folks will do that during summer C. Some students will do that during fall, and it really just depends on the program. For reading, they would take REA 1905 alongside ENC 1101 or another writing course. And again, depending on the program that they're in, tells us when they will typically take that course, whether it's summer C or fall. And then for math, it's a little bit more complicated because it depends on the major. So a student in a major that would require MAC 1105 would take MAT 1033, which is essentially a pre-algebra course. It's a 3 credit hour course. It's letter graded, and it is taught in collaboration with our TCC partners. So TCC actually provides the instructors, and they used to teach it here on campus in person. For summer C, because most of our courses are still remote, we are offering 4 sessions, or I'm sorry, sections, 4 sections of MAT 1033 in summer C and 1 section of MAT 1033 in fall. And the summer C sections are being taught remotely, asynchronously. So we are, again, going to have plenty of seats available, but those students will be placed in MAT 1033 in conversation with the program advisor and what major that they're planning to pursue. If a student is planning to pursue a major that does not require MAC 1105, then we have a special offering for them where they take MGF 1107 or 1106 alongside with a 1-hour support lab, which is SLS 1511 taught through ACE. So we again work with those special programs, those students. We're doing it right now. Matter of fact, trying to plan some sections or a section for summer C. And so we in constant conversation with our programs who have students who might need the support lab. We piloted the support lab a couple years ago, and it has been a tremendous success. Students have done very well being able to take the MGF course and get credit for it along with the 1-hour support lab, where they get the support weekly on whatever topic that they're covering in the class. And it's been a great model. A lot of other universities are using the model. We one day might look to go to the same model for MAC 1105 with a support lab, but right now we're focused on the MGF sequence and that support lab, mostly just because of resources and what we can offer in good high quality to students. But we have talked about offering a math support lab for college algebra as well. And I've heard a lot of students say, even if I wasn't a student that needed remediation, I think I would like that math support lab. We know a lot of students struggle in college algebra, even if their SAT or ACT scores show that they should start in that area, or even their ALEC scores sometimes show that they should start in MAC 1105, but then they still struggle. So we might, in years to come, hopefully offer a math support lab for college algebra. But right now, our math support lab, and we will have one in summer C, and then we might have one for fall and spring, depending on what each special program needs and which students in their special programs might need it. We will have that MGF math support lab running throughout the coming year. And that is it. Mine's short and easy. Does anybody have any questions? I will send out or get this to Sam, but also I typically also send out just some text to CIA about just the testing as well. We have some dates of when those the EDEP test and the Nelson-Denny will be offered, because even though the students are in special programs, they sometimes will ask you. We know that they get to know you, and sometimes will email you or ask you, hey, when do I take my English placement test for remediation or reading placement test? And I'll at least get those dates out to you. You certainly can refer them back to care, athletics, or whatever major that they might be in, but it's good maybe for y'all to know that as well, just so you can answer some quick questions for us. Does anybody have any questions before Kathy takes it away? All right, thank you.
All right, Kathy Badger with athletics is up next.
Morning, everyone. I will be brief. I have 3 quick slides. Sam, can we see those? Or can we see it?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you. This is my once a year hello. This is our office for those who are new, and just a reminder for those maybe who just need a refresher. My name is Kathy Badger. I am the Senior Associate Director here at Student Athlete Academic Services. Quick bullets on what our office does pertinent for this group. We do advising for student athletes. And we obviously have an upcoming summer bridge program, which has been mentioned. The most important part here is the partnership with our major advisors and our advising offices. Other programming that we do, Life, Leaders Yearning for Excellence, programming targeting the increase of retention and graduation, specifically of our Black male student athletes. We also offer tutoring and mentoring within our facility, study rooms, and then obviously partner with many groups on campus, and we appreciate all of those partnerships. So for Summer Bridge, has been mentioned previously, Deontay did an excellent job yesterday talking about Summer Bridge and those goals. So I'm going to say what he said yesterday also applies to us. And the main point that we're going for is our transition and identifying the support services that are best fit for our student athletes. That transition part, acclimation to campus, as mentioned, we will be here on campus. We're excited to have our incoming student athletes, our FTICs coming in to be here on campus finally. Many of them did not have a recruiting visit, so this could be their first time actually visiting us. As mentioned again before, we are in C10 for advising sessions. So our summer bridge, June 14 through 20, we will advise them on that Tuesday. Nikki just went through remediation, so I won't go through that. So based on their remediation scores, it will be located on the orientation dashboard if you feel it's pertinent to your course suggestions, but athletic advisors will be looking at those and keeping a close eye on everything there. But that will determine how many hours our student athletes are taking over the summer based on those remediation scores. So it may be 3 hours, it may be 7 hours, but that'll be determined once those scores and those test scores are in. Alex, unfortunately for our summer bridge students, will be after the advising session. We just couldn't fit it in beforehand. So if we do need to make adjustments, please know that that Alex score will be taken into consideration at that time. And then obviously exposure to our FSU resources. We have so many amazing things that our student athletes just don't know, or our students in general don't know. So we really use Bridge to expose them to all of those options. Next, if you take nothing away but this email address at the top of this slide, I'll still consider it a win. So this email address is really used for anything athletics related. Major changes, you can just shoot them to this email address. You have questions about student athletes, you advised a schedule, what they are taking doesn't seem right, you can shoot it to this email address. I'm the one that's usually checking that. Casey King, our director, also checks that. So we will get that and either route it to the appropriate advisor, or we can hopefully answer your question directly. If you feel like a generic email address is not what you want, and you do want to email us directly, I did add our email addresses down there at the bottom. So you can always reach out to us if there's anything we can help with, summer bridge during the semester, anything student athlete related, please let us know. If you had an amazing advising session, please let us know that as well. Sometimes you only hear about the ones that maybe didn't go so well. So give us a shout out and keep that email address in mind if you need anything. And lastly, thank you for adding all those notes in Campus Connect. They're extremely helpful and can help facilitate a lot of the conversations we're having in our office, because we do facilitate and feel like that partnership with advising offices is very important. And those notes in Campus Connect do help with that process. So that is all I had. Are there any questions about athletics or anything else? I got a hi, Kathy. Hello. Nice to meet everybody. Any questions or anything that I can help with? That's it, quick and easy. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathy. All right, next we have Allison Peters and Danielle, formerly Lewis, now currently Danielle Porter.
Hello, everyone. Danielle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can everybody see our PowerPoint?
Yes, you're
Someone
on
give
the
us a-
presenter view.
Oh,
I don't know if that
okay.
matters. Yeah, you could just duplicate. Yeah, you get it.
Did that do it?
That did it.
Yes. Yeah, the multiple screens. You just never know some days. So we are, I think, kind of finishing things off today, talking about Engage 100 and a retention initiative. So Dr. Allison Peters, one of the assistant deans in undergraduate studies, and Danielle Porter is here with me, who's our assistant director. We're going to run through some updates and some things to know, especially as we move into orientation season. So to get us kicked off, a few little reminders from the retention side. We are trying to track very closely attrition from the institution. As a reminder, we've been doing this for, I guess, about a year now. We have some note reasons in Campus Connect. So if a student tells you that they're thinking about leaving FSU, either if they're taking a break maybe for a semester or two, or leaving the institution permanently, there are some easy breezy, quick note reasons you can add in Campus Connect that help kind of tag those students. It helps us a lot if there's additional information about what the students are planning to do, especially if they're doing military service or religious mission. That's helpful because those are cohort exclusions and help us with our retention and graduation rates. Also, if the student's taking a break, but there's a specific term they're planning on returning, that helps us as well as knowing when to maybe reach back out to that student to offer some additional assistance in helping them transition back to the university after a little break away. If you are not a Campus Connect user, you can email me directly. Just if a student happens to let you know, oh, I'm transferring or I'm leaving FSU, feel free to forward that to me. I'm happy to add that little note reason right in Campus Connect for you, and perhaps even do some outreach to that student if they're still a little bit on the fence. This is really helpful so that we can identify students that are thinking about leaving the university so we can intervene early. It's often, there are things we can do working with financial aid and other partners to maybe encourage the student to stay or help to ease some of the concerns they have. The earlier we know, the better. And I am pulling regular reports from Campus Connect for those note reasons so that we can see what students' plans are. More importantly, it really helps us avoid unnecessary communication to students, bothering them about registering for future terms. They really do. They're like, but I told somebody I wasn't coming back. Why are you emailing or texting me or calling me? It's helpful just to have that information in Campus Connect. So if you don't have access or you're not using Campus Connect and those note reasons, feel free to just shoot me a quick email to let me know a student is planning on taking a break or leaving the institution so we can track that. Just helps us save a little bit of staff time and our high touch communication times and avoid bothering students who may not be wanting to return to the institution, but they've already told someone. Happy to help talk to students if they're on the fence as well and get them connected with resources to hopefully better connect with the institution and stay if possible. And of course, if there are questions, let us know as we move through. As a reminder, as always, take 15. Students who take 15 credit hours in fall and spring are less likely to drop out of the institution, tend to receive better grades in the term, and are more likely to graduate on time. We had a lot of students this last year that were taking kind of closer to 12 hours. And I think that came from a lot of nervousness about online and remote learning. Hoping as we're moving back to this fall are more traditional, we're really encouraging students to challenge themselves with 15 credits. Even if they're coming in with a lot of credits out of high school, it helps them to fill their time, fill out their schedule, and feel really committed to their studies, even from the get-go, and show themselves that they're capable of doing well in a full course load. So please do remember to encourage your students to take around 15 credit hours in the fall and spring semesters as we enter our orientation season. We do know in Summer C, however, we're still going to be having a lot of classes that are remote and a lot of classes that are flex. So students may be ending up in some class schedules where they realize, I don't need to come to Tallahassee for Summer C. Recognizing that, like we did last year, we are offering Florida State Anywhere in Summer C. We would love for you to encourage students to join. We'll be doing direct outreach to students, as Summer C orientations end, to invite them to opt into this program if they find themselves in an all remote class schedule and they're choosing not to come to Tallahassee. But we would love to provide them with some additional opportunity to connect with programs and services, and especially a peer mentor who can help them connect with campus even if they're not here with us physically. We have a few Engage 100 sections available in Summer C. We will be running the Knoll to Knoll peer mentoring program like we did last summer and fall for Summer C. No enrollment required. Great opportunity, low stakes to get connected with a small group of students with similar interests and a peer mentor. And then for transfer students, there's also Transfer Genius, no enrollment required. So if students are finding themselves making that choice not to come to Tallahassee in the Summer C semester, please encourage them, whether they're transfer students or they are our first time in college students, to take advantage of Florida State Anywhere so we can get them connected and we can get them some consistent resources that we're offering virtually here at the institution. The website is updated and ready. Students are already signing up, even though they haven't registered for classes yet. Only a few, but a few have. So they're finding it. Feel free to send students that way if they're telling you they're really feeling kind of on the fence. We would love for them to come and live in Tallahassee and Summer C, but if for some reason they can't, this is a great program to connect them with. That being said, we're going to transition into Engage 100. We are very excited to be offering more Engage 100 course sections than we ever have. We have almost enough seats to offer an Engage 100 to every one of our FTIC students. We are growing a lot moving into this fall. We're excited to talk to you a little bit more about that and our expectation that every student is choosing an Engage 100.
Thank you, Allison. So we're going to take a different approach. I know we usually do a call, please have your students enroll, but we thought it would be important to kind of walk you through what Engage 100 is and what we have available to our students. So Engage 100 is reserved for first time in college students. So first year, if they started in summer, they're eligible for fall programs. If they come in fall, we really want them in a program. Transfer students have some Transfer Genius programs and things through the Transfer Student Services Center. So our focus is more on the first year students, and we really want them to choose an Engage 100. There are a ton of experiences for them to choose either at or before orientation. Some students that come to see you may already be in an Engage 100, like Honors, CARE, Europe, and LLC. A lot of the other Engage 100 options are ready at registration. They can just decide the day of registration that they want to participate in this certain program, and they can just choose whatever one interests them. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about a little bit of how you talk to your students about it. So what will they gain from being an Engage 100? They'll learn how to make the most of their time. They'll learn about different engagement opportunities, involvement experiences beyond the classroom, learn from peers, and meet friends with similar interests, or even just the desire to get involved. They will learn from a peer mentor and a little bit of that accommodating and acclimation period. So they'll really learn how to get acclimated to FSU and make the most of that very first semester, get to know some campus resources and really learn from their peers how to be successful here at FSU. It also helps them to really dive into the social aspect. We encourage the peer mentors to really help them make friends, really help them meet each other, and it goes beyond just those success strategies. So the last thing it really does is it shapes their success. So one of the biggest components of Engage 100 is to help students kind of decide and define what their next steps moving forward are. So kind of making a plan, if you will, for their engagement throughout their time here at FSU. And it really helps them to kind of get to know what their success path will be. So again, what are the benefits? Small class sizes, they're all limited to 19 students. They have that peer mentor. That is what one of the biggest feedback is they learn from a peer who's been in their shoes. We can say something, but if those peer mentors say the same thing, they're going to listen to it 50 times more than when we say it. Most of them have a specific theme, or it's major specific or interest specific. So most of them will go into this specific kind of area where they can dive deeper, or at least share that passion or interest with their peers. And then, like I said, it really helps them to acclimate to the university life and really get to know the resources that are available to them. Low stakes. Most of them are 0 or 1 credit hours. Most, if not all of them, are pass fail. Really low stakes and really great opportunity to just kind of practice college, get to know what they can use to be successful. And we are also recruiting some non-course based options. So we'll have some programs that will start a little later in the semester, or not necessarily be tied to that semester timeline. So we're very excited about that option, really broadening the options for our students. So I'm going to turn it back over to Allison to talk a little bit about some of the research that we found.
Sure. We spent a lot of time this year focusing on evaluating the Engage 100 program. And so we wanted to share a little bit of that with you. We're going to start highlighting more of these results, especially as we have an opportunity to present to students during orientation this year. But just wanted to share a little bit about what students are saying about their experiences. We did a survey of Engage 100 participants over the last 3 years, and we were really pleased to see how students felt that their Engage 100 experience made them feel better prepared to access academic resources, to get involved, to succeed academically, to pursue their academic and personal goals, and to really connect with the FSU community. those are the things that we're hoping for out of this program. We want students to have the opportunity to really get connected, but also to explore their own passions and interests, whatever that be. So the most exciting thing, I think, for a lot of students is they get to choose which Engage 100 speaks to them and what they want to do. And so we're consistently expanding options. You'll see several new programs and options from us launching for this fall. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we really want to help students find that program that helps them do these things and feel better prepared to really tackle their first year experience at the university. We also did a survey of students who didn't choose to participate or enroll in Engage 100, and we're happy to see that students that participated in Engage 100 were more likely to say they strongly or somewhat agreed that they were able to list the resources they need to be successful, and that they feel like living and learning at FSU is part of who they are. That piece of connection to the institution, and that is so important in our retention efforts at the institution. More often than not, students say that part of the reason they leave FSU, or a huge factor, is that they don't feel connected to FSU or to others at FSU, and they don't know their place and their people here. And so we want to try to encourage that as much as we can, and really honing in with that in each one of the Engage 100 experiences being developed. I'd also like to thank a number of advisors for participating in some focus groups with us. I think you'll notice that we're trying to make some changes in our program and create some new resources for advisors based on the feedback that you all provided us. So thank you for spending some time with us this last year. Danielle, take it away.
Thank you. So I wanted to just kind of lay it out there for you all. When you're making recommendations, here are some easy places to start. So if they're not already in LLC, UROP, Honors, or CARE, obviously most of the time those ships have sailed. Of course, Honors has lateral admission and UROP has second year accessibility. So let's talk about the registration-based classes. So SLS 2206, or Chart Your Course, a great program that we have. They have moved to peer-led entirely. And so great option. They're going to have a lot more sections than they have historically. IDS 1107 is just kind of the general Engage 100 course, if you will. So each of those sections will be a little bit different. Sometimes there'll be multiple. We have Campus Connections and Success, which is essentially a FIG colloquium without the cluster of classes. So great option for students that may be coming in with a ton of hours that really can't fit into a FIG, or that really don't have a specific interest in any of the other programs. The Student's Guide to Sustainability is through the Sustainability Office. They had great reviews from last year. Really cool class, just really kind of getting into that interest-based and really kind of targeting students that have a passion in this area, or really just starting out their interest. So great program there. Future Innovators has been with us for quite a few semesters. Great program. The Office of Accessibility Services has a section. Theirs is reserved for students that participate in their program specifically. So that's one a little bit hard to market, but they do a good job marketing it for themselves. And then we actually are about to approve five different programs. Maybe my math is wrong. Through the Center for Leadership and Social Change, and those will be several different kind of community-based, service-based programs that we'll be piloting. So those, we'll find out how they are, but they look really, really cool, and I'm really excited for those to be an option for the students. And then we have Design Your Life with Innovation, ENT 1611, also a really cool program. Those usually have 1 to 2 sections per semester. And then step 1 for FSU Teach is approved as an Engage 100 program. So all really cool programs. We are going to provide you a cheat sheet. So I am working to kind of abbreviate all of the descriptions and put them on one sheet so that you all can have a PDF. I may even make it like a checklist so you can check off the ones that you're going to recommend to your students. So if you have any suggestions for what that looks like, please let me know so I can make it what you need. But that is coming your way. And then What I'm going to do on that cheat sheet is list out all of the IDS 1107 sections so you know exactly which section to advise your students if they tell you that there's a specific one they're interested in. I'll make it fillable for PDF so you can do it entirely virtually. We're also going to do some drop-in workshops for you all. I know that we have breezed through this information, and so if you want to sit down and walk through what your program should recommend or some of the Engage 100s that would be really tailored to your majors, we want to do whatever we can do to make it easier for you to recommend Engage 100. So please let us know. We have these 3 workshops sections available, if you will. We're going to be sitting in a Zoom waiting for you all. So please feel free to stop in. We'll do it this Thursday, next Tuesday, and then the following Friday. The Zoom link is there, and we'll send it out to Sam too to send out to everyone. Or if you can't make any of those, please just email me. I'm happy to set up an appointment with you and I and Dr. Peters if she's available, or whoever you want. We really want to make this easy for you all. We know that your time is limited, but whatever we can do to make it easy to get our students in these remarkable programs, we want to do. So please, please help us help you. And then I think that's all for Engage 100. We have a few last notes. Does anybody have any questions about Engage 100?
I think there are a couple of things in the chat. I can't open it because my screens are too.
So the first one is
okay, so
Beckett wanting to copy and paste the workshop info.
I can do that.
Solid. And then Danielle Porter, has your email changed?
Not yet. It has not. Based on how slow Social Security has been, I do not see it changing anytime soon, but I will be sure to send out a mass email as soon as my email changes.
I will say my experience is it will just kind of be a new alias for you. So it should all go the same place. I will also say, if you notice, Danielle and I have some Engage 100 backgrounds on our Zoom. We have 5 or 6 of these available. If you are interested, we can send those out and you're welcome to use them for meetings during orientation. We are going to be using them during breakout sessions during orientation when we talk about Engage 100, during course registration labs. But another way to kind of be able to point to Engage 100 and spread the word, or maybe get a student to ask you about it. So we're happy to share those backgrounds for Zoom with you as well. So as we finish up, we are very quickly going to transition to a couple of orientation notes. The first is about the What's Left list.
Yes, I know that all of you love the What's Left list. I love the What's Left list. For those of you that are not familiar with the What's Left list, I'm going to see how many times I can say What's Left list in this little point. This is a list that I provide with all of the seats that are available in all of the classes for summer and fall. I only show you classes that have over 5 seats left, as to not advise a student on a class that's not going to be available in 5 minutes. I wanted to make a few notes because last year we saw a lot of students that had the What's Left in it list in its entirety. This list is not provided to be given to students. This is for you to be able to adequately advise for classes that are going to be available. What we found is if students have access to the What's Left list, they use it as a course catalog. They ignore the requirements, they ignore your advice, they just kind of look through this to see what times they like. So do us all a favor, don't send this to your students. They don't use it properly. They can, use the Search by Liberal Studies tab in Schedule Assistant. There are different ways to access this information without you giving them the What's Left list. It's an all-encompassing list. We give the general education classes, we do the speech, oral competency, the computer competency, we do foreign language classes. We give you kind of everything all in one sheet. Again, it's only classes that have 5 or more seats, and I tell you whether or not it has a reserve cap. I don't go into detail about which reserve cap it is, but you'll know exactly how many seats have a reserve cap on them. I cannot reiterate, do not give it to your students. The last little reminder I have is that it's a point in time snapshot. So I do it and send it out to you all. I'm willing to bet in most cases within 10 minutes it's inaccurate because of the constant registration. So just please remember that it is a point in time snapshot. And it's never going to really be 100% accurate. There may be more seats than I'm advertising. There may be less seats than I'm advertising, but I do the best that I can to get you the most accurate information when we have it. I think that's my note on what's left list. Please don't send it to your students.
It is a great tool, though, for being able to give some realistic options to students for classes to look at and take. So this is our last slide. It's about the pre-advising survey. At some point, I ended up working with this last year, I think because I just know a lot about Qualtrics. But listen, we heard you last summer. That file was bonkers. It was way too big. It was really hard to use. We have redesigned the survey for 2021. It's shorter and it's focused on vital information. What we have done is we took the 6,000 plus submissions from last year, identified about the top 12 exams and classes that students took, made those check boxes, and then have an other for AP, IB, ACE, CLEP, and dual enrollment / college course credit. Should be a lot easier to read. We are also, we have a new setup to provide this data to you real time. So there is a new orientation pre-advising survey teams site. This is separate from the other team site where business gets done for orientation, because we wanted to keep this all in one usable place for those of you that find a lot of use in viewing the pre-advising survey results. What you'll be able to do is get in that team site, search for a student who's attending that upcoming orientation session by their info ID, and you'll be able to view a nice, beautiful, printable, condensed, easy to read version of their individual survey submission. It is going to have only what the student clicked and reported, not every possible thing that they could have clicked and reported on that survey. So it's an easy to read way to see the pre-advising survey information. If you happened to see last year a student show you the confirmation email that they got after they did the survey, and it had this lovely summary at the very end that was super easy to read, that's what it's going to look like. The submission is going to be available in Teams just a few minutes after the student completes the survey. So even if they wait till the last minute to do it, it's going to be in that team for you. So we are excited to have this available there. And if a student doesn't do the survey, there's not going to be a submission. I promise you they get several reminders to do it, but sometimes they don't. But if they happen to wait until the day before orientation to do it, it's going to be available in that team and ready for you to look at. So it's kind of just a process of going through, seeing who's going to be attending, using the attendance lists that are already provided, searching for students by info ID to view their results, and to prep for advising sessions. Do you remember this is only sent to our FTIC and lower division transfer students? Upper division transfer students don't receive the survey. That is noted in the orientation, the slides that they receive to do, but every once in a while an upper division transfer student gets a little confused. They email us and say, I didn't get it. And we just say, it's okay, you're not going to receive it. But we do encourage them to have an unofficial transcript handy for their advising meeting. So it'll help a little bit. To help with the pre-advising survey, especially changes in how to access it and the information that's going to be provided. I've got a handout with step-by-step instructions and a video with step-by-step instructions that walks you through how to access and search in Teams. Both of those are ready and going to be, I'll get those to Sam and they'll be up on CIA Confidential for you to be able to access. Hopefully this will be a lot easier way to view and use that information as we move into this next year, but get you what you really need out of it and cutting down on that kind of extra stuff that just made it kind of an unusable file to a certain extent last year. So hopefully that will help. That being said, that is our last slide for the presentation.
I did want to add, just because shockingly, we didn't talk about it at all. We do still have FIGs. We have actually 73 sections of FIG, and that is 2 in Engage 100. So don't fret, we still have them in plethora. Shockingly, we didn't mention that. So I wanted to just add that as a final note.
Awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. All right. So I mentioned this in the chat not that long ago. We kind of got away from this in the last year where we put time into these meetings to let you all kind of give updates, whether you're new to CIA and you want to introduce yourself or you're old to CIA, but you're in a new role, or if your department has any updates. And I know we're not going to be doing this again until, maybe August. And with orientation, it's always good to get these new changes out of the way and make sure that we're all kind of like in lockstep before we start working with all these new students coming in. So I do know that there are 2 new folks over in ACE, so they can go ahead and start. Just share who you are and what you're doing. It could be either Samantha Tackett or Elise.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to make sure my camera works. I am at ACE. I work with the proactive faculty referral system. We receive referrals from faculty or self-referrals for students that are experiencing academic difficulty. And we try to connect them with our in-house tutoring as well as other services on campus, which might include, writing center or even counseling center or case management, in addition to other services that are there. And we experience the same ebb and flow as you receive for your orientation and your different cycles of peaks and valleys through the semester. So I empathize with everyone that's just about to hit their surge for orientation. I appreciate what you do, and I oftentimes try to loop in an academic advisor for a specific major if a student is struggling and they might need additional advising on what their other options are for additional changes in their course, in their curriculum map or course options. So thanks for working with me in advance.
Hi, I'm Elise Budke. I am also new to ACE, and I am in charge of the math studio. And then I also am 50% with the math department, teaching a math course every semester. I am also reinventing sort of the SLS support class that was spoken of for the MGF courses, and hopefully then to expand out. So I will be kind of doing a redesign early this summer to run and pilot this summer, and then hopefully bettering it continually moving forward. Again, too, with the ACE tutoring centers, to keep that in mind, to send students to, especially if there are any that are worried about passing at the end of the semester and then contemplating, withdrawing from the school and such, send them over for tutoring. That can be just that little help that they need to convince them to stay and that they can actually do this. So definitely keep us in mind.
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. Anybody else out of the group of 101 CIAers? This could be either you're new and you want to go ahead and introduce who you are and where you're working, you're in a new role on campus, or if you have any updates from your department.
Sam, psychology kind of just has a general reminder. So we've been having a lot of students coming to our department to change their major who are not quite eligible. It's a really firm 2.8 GPA that they need. So just a general reminder, if they are no longer undergraduates, if they're upper division over 52 credit hours, they must have that 2.8 GPA. Additionally, we're having problems with students being referred to us who don't have that GPA, but are also in the midst of like GPA chasing. So what that is for our department, it just means that they've been taking psychology courses, but have not in their history been able to reach that 2.8 GPA and have not identified a different major to potentially go into if that GPA requirement isn't met. So we've been cracking down on it in our department. So if everyone else could also maybe help them either get referred to the CAPS office or wherever they need to go to identify a potential second major in case that GPA can't get met, we'd so appreciate it, because we've been working to remove that ourselves. So yeah, just reminders from us. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Any other department updates?
Yeah, Sam, we have in entrepreneurship, we have 2 new majors. We have commercial has an actual track, which is automotive track. It starts this fall. We also have the STEM entrepreneurship that starts this fall. The requirements are exactly the same as the ones for the other majors. One big thing I would like everyone to know, if you don't know, is that we only admit students once a year, and that's in the fall. Our application comes live usually mid-November and closes every February 1st unless it falls on a weekend. And that's it.
Good notes. Thank you.
Sam, I've got some updates out of human sciences as well.
Solid. Bring them on, Matt.
All right. Just for everybody's knowledge, the College of Human Sciences is going to be starting the process of sort of rebranding and renaming this summer. We have received approval to change our name to the College of Health and Human Sciences. So if you see College of Health and Human Sciences, that's still us. Our Department of Nutrition, Food, and Exercise Sciences will be changing its name to the Department of Nutrition and Integrated Physiology. And our Family and Child Sciences Department will, from the summer forward, be known as the Department of Human Development and Family Science. So College of Human Sciences is going to be College of Health and Human Sciences. Family and Child Sciences is turning into Human Development and Family Science, and Nutrition, Food, and Exercise Sciences is going to be Nutrition and Integrated Physiology.
Solid. And I might not be the only one, requesting this internally as I process that. Could you spell that out and send it to me via email, and I could share that with CIA?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go ahead and give you an announcement to share to everybody, Sam. But we're still kind of making these changes on our end, so I don't even think our websites have been updated yet. But I'm getting emails about that literally as this meeting is going on. So I'll go ahead and get all the official updates to you all, but just don't be surprised if you see those naming conventions changing very soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, I do have an update from COSP as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so with the Law and Society minor, at this point, it has been discontinued or suspended. Let me see if that is, yeah, it's been discontinued for now. It's been removed from the academic program guide minors page as well. So pretty much it's suspended for anyone who has not declared it in the system, and that's due to course availability. And that's it.
Understood. Thank you, Margarita. I saw Delilah drop the UGS CAP advising kind of catch-all email. Delilah, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So as a reminder, we do have the UGS CAP advising at fsu.edu email. So if you could please use that email to refer students to. We have a wonderful front desk coordinator or office coordinator who is managing that email, who will get the student to the appropriate advisor. So that ensures a speedy reply to the email. And then just a reminder that we have first year students, the MAP Term 1 and Term 2 are to be referred to WJB, so the first year exploratory program. And then the CAP office sees second year and above students who are UGST, so the undergraduate studies qualification. We see all of those students and helping them with exploring other majors and finding another major option. Thank you guys. If y'all have any questions, feel free to email me. I can also put my email in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Delilah. If there are no other ones, I
want to pipe in, Sam.
Okay. Hey.
Sorry about that. This is Jennifer Anderson over in the math department. Melissa didn't introduce herself, but I want to introduce her. Melissa Tillery is my new advisor over here in math. She is helping me support campus-wide needs. That's been a long time coming, and so I'm really grateful to have her on board. I dropped in the chat if everyone could please use the advisor@math.fsu.edu email, that'd be really great. She's mostly monitoring that for campus partners. I have access to that also, so we can tag team it now when it's really busy. Before, all of those emails came to just me. So if you didn't get a response for a few weeks at a time, there was a reason why. So now that I have help, please feel free to reach out to her. That advisor@math email is going to be really just instrumental in helping us support you better across campus. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good stuff. All right, and I saw Nina Flanagan mention the exploratory advising email handle for those who are coming in MAP terms 1 and 2. So just be mindful of that distinction between CAP getting term 3 and above, terms 1 and 2 getting the exploratory advising handle. All right, so I also dropped the upcoming exploratory advisor training. That's going to be Thursday, May 6th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. If you are new to orientation advising and all of its fun nuances that have been discussed at this meeting, or maybe you need a refresher or anything in between, you just need to, come get some training. Come on out. It's also going to be my last day at FSU. I figured that's a good segue. I'm moving on beyond academia. It's been real, y'all. I have greatly appreciated my time serving as messenger at CIA and trying to disseminate all this information, trying to prepare all new and developing advisors to sink their teeth into this field. You all are doing some incredible work here. It shows in the metrics and it shows in all of your students' responses and how they connect to FSU. It's very much bittersweet that I'm moving on, but you'll be in good hands. I don't know whose hands, but they'll be good. I trust that that'll be a good decision made when it comes. I would assume that CIA will continue rolling on through the summer. I'll talk with AF leadership about how it gets moderated in terms of the listserv, just to make sure that you're all taken care of and the CIA folder's not being blown up. I'll make sure to reach out to Bob Levins if he's not already here to see if Army ROTC has any funding left available, so that, since people will be repopulated by that point, there will be some kind of maybe gathering with food involved at the August CIA meeting. Yeah, that's it. I've had a few people ask about some kind of like send off. It doesn't feel right to do something like that, but I'll drop in the chat real quick where I'll be after work on Friday. That's this Friday. So if you want to show up, say hi and say bye. I'll be around. Otherwise, I got nothing else for you. That's kind of a weird note to leave this on. I will be graduating from the CIA. So it's been real. I've enjoyed my time here. I wish you all the best in your endeavors, and I'll hang out here. If you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, confessions, complaints, you could either let it out here or in the chat, or not let it out at all. Otherwise, y'all take care.